Respected Dharma Masters, respected practitioners and guests. A few days ago, a visitor was in Singapore and came to the Amitabha building to pick up some CDs and tapes. I was in the distribution room when she came in and was asked if I had some time because she had some questions. She told me that she understood the Buddha said not to blindly believe, but to question and examine what he taught for ourselves. Only after we examined and found what he said to be logical and true were we to believe. She said that when she practiced more, she found obstacles arising. Why, when she was trying to do good, were more bad things happening to her? How could she believe that cause and effect was really true? I told her about Liao 4 lessons, which she was already familiar with. But she questioned how she could believe in something that happened 400 years ago. Did I not have something that was a little more current? I explained to her that one of the first reasons I became a Buddhist was the law of cause and effect. I have one sister. We have the same parents. We were raised in the same environment. We were taught the same things. We went to the same schools. Why then are we so different? She likes movies. I like to read. She likes to collect things. I was happy to give mine away. She is a very successful, very dynamic businesswoman. I am obviously a Buddhist nun. She is very extroverted and outgoing. I almost pass out before giving a Dharma talk. When photos are taken, she heads for the very center of the group. I always head for the back row. We are so very different. Why? The law of cause and effect. We are both the result of our accumulated causes over infinite lifetimes. The law of cause and effect was, as I said, one of the primary reasons for me becoming a Buddhist. It was logical. It was what the Buddha taught. It made sense. It is the only thing that has explained many things in my life. Believing in the law of cause and effect is very important. It is stressed very heavily in the first lesson of Liao. For the first lesson is primarily about the law of cause and effect. The first lesson concentrates on creating the confidence to change our destiny and the ways in which to do so. The second and third chapters place emphasis on the methods. Thus, they are concerned mainly with the ways to reform, the ways to refrain from wrongdoing, to accumulate virtue, and to change destiny. From the text. During the spring-autumn period, China was divided into several small nations. Many prestigious advisors and counselors of these nations were able to accurately predict whether a person's future would be good or bad, fortunate or unfortunate based on their observations of that person's speech and behavior. Many of these are recorded in history books." End quote. From here, we can see the reality in ancient philosophy. Spring-autumn is an historic account of the Liao nation. It is a period mentioned often throughout Liao Fan's Four Lessons, and refers to a period in China's history over 2,000 years ago, when the country was going through a period of great turmoil and change. Throughout his lifetime, Confucius edited and compiled these records into a book, which has been passed down through the centuries to this day. This book has commentaries written by many people. The most popular and widely studied one has been extensively footnoted by Jiu Ming Zhou, and it is called the Spring-Autumn Annals, one of the 5 classics. Confucius collected and edited the records in the Spring-Autumn Annals by Zhou, but he was not the author. 2 other editions are the Gong-yang biography and the Guliang biography. By far, the Spring-Autumn Annals is the most accurate, best written, and footnoted. All 3 editions have been compiled into the 13 ancient Chinese scriptures. Mr. Liao Fan told his son that many advisors during this period were able to accurately predict whether a person's future would be good or bad, fortunate or unfortunate, based on their observations of that person's speech and behavior. In other words, they could accurately predict a person's good fortune or misfortune just by his or her speech and behavior. These predictions were later proven to be true. On an individual basis, these people could tell a person's success or their failure. On a much larger scale, they could predict a country's rise and decline. Many of these examples have been proven in studies in the articles found in the Spring-Autumn Annals and the National Language, all of which tell of ancient Chinese history. These individuals had this ability because they understood the law of cause and effect. When our speech and our actions are good, and we are dignified and considerate, then it is safe to say that we will possess good fortune and a promising future. On the other hand, if our speech is harsh and our actions frivolous, then our future will be gloomy. Even if we seem to be doing well now, this period of success will not last. Like the flower that blooms only once in 100 years. Since our speech and actions can predict destiny, extra caution must be placed on our desires and on our behavior. From the text. Usually, there are signs that signal impending danger or the coming of good fortune. These signs are a reflection of one's mind. Though it is the mind from which thoughts arise, one's appearance can fully portray a person's character. End quote. This is not just a theory, but a fact that applies to both individuals and to countries. A sign always precedes the actual occurrence of any event. The sign originates from the original intention and is seen in thoughts and behavior. This is why calm and logical people are able to observe and predict future changes. They can see a nation's rise and fall through the actions and desires of its citizens. It is said, a country is based on its people. Just by observing the hearts and minds of people, by observing what they are thinking and doing, we can foresee a country's future, whether it is going to prosper or decline. The same applies to families. The manner in which the household members think and behave will greatly affect its failure or success. And this is true for individuals as well. There is a sign for everything, and it is usually obvious to someone who has sufficient understanding and training to see it. From the text. Usually, a person is more fortunate when tending toward kindness and invites trouble when tending towards meanness. Ordinary people often do not see what is going on. It is as if their vision were blurred. Since they cannot see the true reality, they claim that good fortune and misfortune are unpredictable. End quote. Kindness refers to our heart and behavior. Truly kind people will help others even if it means bringing harm to themselves. They will be strict with themselves, but forgiving and lenient towards others. These people are bound to have an abundance of good fortune later in their lives. On the other hand, a person invites trouble when tending towards meanness. Such a person treats others with disdain and concentrates only on self-indulgence. This person can look forward to severe misfortune, but they cannot see the signs. It is as if their vision is blurred, as if they were blindfolded. It would seem that there is no way to predict destiny, when actually the future is right before their very eyes. What types of people seek advice from psychics, from fortune tellers? It is these ordinary people. What Mr. Liao told his son next is very important. From the text. When we are absolutely honest and truthful, our hearts will be in agreement with the will of heaven. This is the main principle. We need to be sincere in all our actions towards others. We do not cheat others, and we do not fool ourselves. The will of heaven is what Buddhism calls the true nature. It is the state of having no wandering thoughts. It is constantly maintaining only those thoughts that are virtuous. When we are absolutely honest and truthful, our hearts will be in agreement with the will of heaven. In other words, even if we are presently suffering from hardships, they will soon be over, and an abundance of good fortune will then be ours. Therefore, whether in this world or beyond, we need to begin from the foundation of sincerity. Confucianism speaks of learning and cultivation. Within the 8 guidelines, the sincere and virtuous heart is the essence. We accomplish this by severing our desires and uncovering our self-nature. If we do not do this, we will be unable to sever these desires and unable to accomplish the ultimate sincerity. When severing desires, what are we cutting off? The 6 dusts of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thought, and the 5 desires of wealth, lust, fame, food or drink, and sleep. If these desires cannot be reduced, then our hearts will constantly be affected by outside occurrences. How can such a heart hope to remain sincere? Even if we cannot completely discard these desires, we can work to gradually curtail them. Most of us are immersed in our wandering thoughts, which actually are to no avail. The best thing for us to do is to abandon these thoughts and some of the enjoyments that we experience through our 6 senses, and to be more considerate towards others. If we welcome others to share in our good fortune, then it will become even greater good fortune. Once we understand the logic in this, we need to act upon it. When my teacher, Venerable Master Jing Kong, began studying and practicing Buddhism, Liao Fan's 4 Lessons was his most significant introduction to Buddhism. A dedicated Buddhist, Mr. Jing Zhou-ju, gave him a copy as a gift. After reading it, he looked back on his life and realized that he had the same faults, the same destiny, as Mr. Liao Fan. For he was also supposed to have a very short life. All the fortune tellers he had seen had told him that he would die young. Even living Buddha, Ganju, said this as well. Teacher believed them and was convinced he would not survive age 45. Therefore, when he became a monk, he based his study on his presumed death at age 45. He did not ask for a longer life. As expected, at age 45, he became seriously ill. At that time, Master Ling Yuan from Keelong's Dajue Temple was holding a seminar on the Surangama Sutra and asked him to lecture on it. He had only reached chapter 3 when he became seriously ill. He did not go to a doctor or take any medications because he realized that his time was up. He simply stayed home every day, recited Amitabha, and waited for his death and his subsequent birth into the Pure Land. However, after a month, not only had he not died, but he had regained his health as well. As he practiced according to the method, he realized that his health was improving, and he began to see the results from his practice as he felt increasingly confident. Now he has let go of everything and feels even more liberated now. Therefore, in order to receive, we must first let go. If we are reluctant to let go, then we will be unable to receive. The Chinese say, to give is to gain. The phrase comes from Buddhist sutras. We must first give up something to gain something in return. If we do not give up, then we will gain nothing. So this chapter on reforming our destiny is all about letting go. What if we are seeking for something? To seek for something also helps us to receive. But how do we seek? Just let go, and we will receive everything. First, we must let go of all our desires and attachments. Mr. Liao said that when we are absolutely honest and truthful, our hearts will be in agreement with the will of heaven. This advises us to discard from the root, to discard our selfishness, to completely extinguish any thoughts of benefiting ourselves. Instead, our considerations should be how to benefit society, humanity, and all living beings. Once this is achieved, we will gain infinite good fortune. From the text. By observing our goodness, others will be able to foresee the coming of good fortune. On the other hand, by observing our lack of goodness, others can also see upcoming adversities. End quote. Thus, all happiness and adversities have signs. Others know that good fortune is about to come to us when they see kindness in our hearts and in our behavior. For we let other people share in our good fortune. On the other hand, if we are selfish and unkind, robbing others of their benefits but never relinquishing any of our own, then our benefits and our good fortune will eventually be used up. Then they will disappear. Once these have run out, there will be none left. Then adversities and calamities will befall us. So as long as we continue to have reckless behavior, others will know that adversity will shortly follow. This principle of observation is applicable to an individual, a family, a society, a country, to the entire world. As long as we remain calm, composed, and careful, we will be able to see everything clearly. Therefore, it is possible to predict all bad and good fortune, happiness and suffering, a stable or turbulent world, and even the rise and fall of a country. From the text. If we wish to obtain good fortune and stay away from misfortune, we must start first with reform before we even contemplate kind behavior. End quote. We have seen how signs are only seen by those with pure minds, those who can practice deep meditation. We do not have to practice Buddhism. We can be Taoists, Confucianists, scholars, or simply people who have attained purity of mind. The deeper the concentration, the farther we are able to see. This is why Buddhist sutras often tell us that an arhat can see 500 past lifetimes and 500 future lifetimes. Actually, all living beings possess this ability, for it is innate. This is the way it should be. However, this ability has been lost now because our minds are distracted. Various wandering thoughts, discriminatory thoughts, attachments, and afflictions have confused the mind sufficiently to lose its natural ability. Buddhism teaches us how to eliminate these pollutants and obstructions and to uncover our original self-nature. Once we understand the principles, we then decide where to begin the process of reform. We have several effective methods. Each of us would like to attain good fortune, happiness, wisdom, while avoiding misfortune. Good fortune is the effect which comes from good behavior, the cause. But if we do not first eliminate our karmic obstacles, good fortune will be difficult to obtain. Therefore, our primary objective is to rid ourselves of this negative karma. Some people believe in seeking outside of themselves, not from within. Most people seek for what they wish within the constant. But this will not work. For although we now place great hope in the knowledge that there are variables, that variable has yet to materialize. So how can we reach our final goal? We must first practice to purify our minds to attain goodness. What is goodness? When our minds are serene and pure, this is foremost goodness. When our minds are impure, then all the good deeds practiced will be tainted. Therefore, the amount of good fortune that we can receive would be limited. In other words, we have not yet thoroughly eliminated our negative karma. We can therefore conclude that preserving the mind of virtue and purity is of utmost importance. How do we return our mind to its natural state of purity? Just as Mr. Liao said, we must start with reform before we can even think about behaving kindly. The word must is a crucial requirement. So how do we reform our wrongdoings? The following are a few important guidelines from the text. There are 3 ways to reform our faults. First, we must be able to feel ashamed. End quote. Many ancient Chinese sages and virtuous people taught that being ashamed is similar to possessing great courage. Confucius defined it as great wisdom, great kindness, great courage. What is great courage? It is recognizing shame. Only by doing so can we learn to regret and correct our faults, to be impelled to improve ourselves. If we do not know shame, then there is no hope, no future for us. However, we do not want to use other people as our standard for our behavior. We should raise ours a little higher. How high? We can set our standards according to those of bodhisattvas. They are humans just like us. So why is it that he or she can become a bodhisattva with infinite life while we are still trapped in reincarnation in the cycle of birth and death? This is a major humiliation. From the text. Think of all the ancient sages and virtuous people whose names and teachings have lasted for hundreds of generations. They were people just like us. But why is my name tarnished and my reputation ruined like a cracked tile? End quote. If we can often think this way and ask ourselves this question, then our shameful heart will begin to take shape. This is the first step and the driving force for changing our destiny. What is the force behind this motivation? It is an inconceivable and original ability. Today, we can readily identify with what Mr. Liao Fan is explaining here. There were many great Chinese sages during ancient times: Confucius, Mencius, Zhou Gong, and Yi Ying. We can think they were great men. Well, I can be great too. They were human. Well, I am human too. If they can do it, why can't I? This is where and how we start to reflect. Transcending our world, others have become arhats, bodhisattvas, and Buddhas. They have lived an infinite number of lifetimes. So have we. Why is it that after countless lifetimes of practicing Buddhism, they have succeeded in becoming a bodhisattva or a Buddha, whereas we are still mired within the 6 realms of reincarnation? This is the greatest shame. No other disgrace in this world can match this one. Their names and teachings lasted through hundreds of generations. This means that in this world or beyond, these sages have become teachers of celestial beings. One of the 10 names for all beings for all Buddhas, is teacher of celestial beings and humankind. Here, a teacher is essentially a role model. He or she can set a good example and be a good role model for all living beings. We can use this to examine our own behavior. Why have our names become tarnished and our reputations ruined? This describes how we must suffer as a consequence for our offenses. One of Mr. Liao Fan's virtues is that he did not try to hide any of his faults. He does not talk about others' faults. He only talks of his own. As soon as he realized his faults, he immediately began to correct them. This was his strength and the crucial element that led to his later achievements. Our first fault or ailment is that we are unwilling to part with worldly desires. This means that we are still longing for, still clinging to something. The reason we feel such longing is that our naturally pure heart has become polluted by worldly desires and emotions, as well as the 6 dusts. Since the word traditionally used to convey sense objects also means dust, it carries the same implication of pollution. If we do not wipe the tables or chairs every day, they will doubtlessly become covered with dust. To wipe them daily is to rid them of dust, to rid them of pollution. This is similar to our pure mind being polluted by desires and the 6 dusts. Wealth, lust, fame, food or drink, and sleep are the desires which give rise to the emotions of greed, anger, ignorance, and arrogance. These are the elements of pollution. This is why the Buddha called the external environment the 6 sense objects or dusts. These are impurities which contaminate our pure mind and are the root of our illness. If we wish to recover our purity of mind, to recover our self-nature, we must let go of clinging to these desires, these longings, these dusts. To be able to let go is the hardest thing for us to do. But if we can let go of 1 degree of desire, we will attain 1 degree of purity. If we can let go of 2 degrees of desire, we can attain 2 degrees of purity of mind. There are 51 levels of bodhisattva practice. Each level is based on the amount of emotions that the bodhisattvas have been able to discard. Once we can let go of all 51 dusts and desires, then we will become a Buddha. If there is just 1 degree of dust left that has yet to be relinquished, 1 degree of emotion, then we are an equal enlightenment bodhisattva. These dusts and desires are in effect our karmic obstacles. The Pure Land School often uses the phrase, carrying our remaining karma to be born into the Pure Land. This means that before our death, if we have been unable to decrease all of our longings for worldly attractions, we can carry our remaining karma with us to be reborn into the Western Pure Land. Some people in the past believed that the Pure Land School does not practice the method of to be reborn with karma. They felt that the phrase should have read to be reborn after eliminating all karma. This caused considerable shock among Pure Land practitioners around the world. This interpretation of needing to eliminate all karma is incorrect, for it does not correspond with the sutras. Although we cannot locate the exact words "to be reborn with karma" in any of the sutras, their meaning is very clear. If we believe that we can only be reborn when all of our karma has been eliminated, then when we read the Infinite Life Sutra, we would not help but wonder why we would even need to be born into the Pure Land if we have already eliminated all of our negative karma. Equal enlightenment bodhisattvas have 1 degree of remaining ignorance and are not yet completely free of emotions, a tiny bit of karma remains. Thus, bodhisattvas are called awakened sentient beings. Strictly speaking, only one being with an absolutely perfectly pure mind exists, a Buddha. Aside from Buddhas, no other mind is truly pure. Even equal enlightenment bodhisattvas possess that one remaining degree of ignorance, of remaining karma, still have some of the 6 dusts. However, they do not have the desire, the longing for these emotions. This is why they are called awakened sentient beings. They are aware of emotion, are unlike we ordinary people who are still clinging to these worldly desires. We would do well to understand this fact. This phrase, carrying our remaining karma to be born into the Pure Land, was said by the patriarchs and is based upon the sutras. It complies with the meanings in the sutras. This is especially so in the Pure Land school. We can be born in the Western Pure Land, even if we still possess all of the afflictions. We have seen, both in the past and in the present, numerous Pure Land practitioners who passed away to be born into the Pure Land. These are true accounts from reliable witnesses. Thus, we need to realize the true reality and not be affected by deviated views. We should accord with the teachings in the sutras, not with individual people, because individuals can misinterpret the sutras. From the text. I secretly do many improper things, and think others will not know about them. I am shamelessly proud of myself. One day, I will sink to the level of an animal without even realizing it. End quote. Improper refers to the things that we should not do. Something illegal, illogical, against moral standards, human ethics, or cultural customs. Mr. Liao secretly did things that he was not supposed to do, and thought that others would not know about them. Frankly, some people would not know. What kind? Those people whose minds have been clouded with ignorance, and those people who are totally deluded. On the other hand, those who possess proper thoughts, wisdom, and a calm and composed mind will be able to see. We cannot hide from these people. In addition, there are beings and spirits of heaven and earth who are constantly present. These celestial beings and spirits have 5 paths of knowledge which are rewarded not achieved through cultivation. So if the celestial beings and spirits know, needless to say, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas know as well. They are aware of every single thought that arises from the mind of every sentient being in the universe. After reading this in sutras and books written by the sages, we would tremble to realize that there is absolutely nothing that we can hide from these beings. Is it not better to regret our wrongdoings? Since they know everything, even if we do not confess, it would at least make us feel a little less guilty if we voluntarily regretted and felt remorse. Mr. Liao Fan was shamelessly proud of himself. This is arrogance. It is a heart which feels no shame. Shameless refers to someone who is totally unfeeling. Someone who feels no shame or remorse. In other words, it is someone totally without a conscience. If we feel guilty after a wrongdoing, we can still be considered a good person. Although we hide our offenses from others, we still feel a weight on our conscience. There is still hope for our turning back. However, if we feel absolutely nothing after a wrongdoing, then there is no hope for us. Only the person who can feel ashamed can feel hope. Only this person can be helped. When we are shameless and arrogant, one day we will sink down to the animal realm, while presently in the human realm, as a result of our negative karma, we will eventually fall into the three bad realms. Although we do not know this, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, celestial beings and spirits do know this. When things are not going well, the bad spirits will come to harass us. These spirits do not just arbitrarily harass anyone. They select their target according to the being's behavior. They dare not bother those who will be born into the three good realms. And they are extremely respectful to people with kind hearts and compassionate behavior. On the other hand, they will torment those who perform bad deeds. They will ridicule and bully such a person, be insolent and sarcastic, because they know this person will eventually fall into the three bad realms. Only true Buddhist practitioners understand these principles. Once we understand these, we will naturally be cautious and watchful over our every thought, word, and deed. In this lifetime, not only do we not want to be born into the three bad realms, We want to transcend the cycle of birth and death. If we truly wish to transcend reincarnation, there is only one path to take. It is to seek birth into the Western Pure Land. Therefore, we need to have firm and unshakable determination. How do we attain birth into the Pure Land? It is attained by purity of mind, firm belief, the vow, and mindfulness of Buddha Amitabha in cultivating our purity of mind. It is attained by permanently letting go of all worldly attachments. We do not need to completely let go of everything. For if we were able to do this, then we would become Buddhas. However, the more we let go, the better off we will be. It would be best to not think about anything that does not have to be thought of. Instead, we can settle our minds on chanting Ami Tofo. We can then transform our thoughts from those that only benefit our families and ourselves to those that benefit all living beings. In so doing, our minds will become pure. The difference between enlightened beings who are Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and sentient beings is that awakened beings think of sentient beings, not of themselves, while sentient beings, ordinary beings, only think of themselves. They do not think of others. Even if we did not deliberately try to sever our self-attachment by constantly thinking only of helping others, our self-attachment would gradually diminish on its own. Once we no longer have self-attachment due to our achievements in Buddha name chanting, we will attain the level of one mind undisturbed in mindfulness. We would then achieve birth into a higher level in the Pure Land, into the land where everything is temporary.